Hello, my name is Robin. My photograph is on page 28, and it's titled Winter Cotton. I came up with the title because it reminded me of the cotton fields that my husband and I had seen in North Carolina when we were driving through on a trip. And what was interesting to me about this group of trees that was in my own yard was the contrast between the sharp, hard branches and the light, fluffy snow. And I found that very interesting. The picture was taken with a regular digital camera, point and click. Nothing fancy. I've also taken great pictures with my phone. So I'd like to encourage anyone who has a phone or a camera. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. If you see something you like, even if it's a tree in your own yard, share. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jordan, and I wrote a short story that is a bit of an experiment in the first person for you all. If you don't mind, I'd like to read it to you. I take aim at a sudden sound, pointing the barrel of my pistol down at the furry face of a young fox. I pay the animal no heed as it continues on its way, passing beneath my tree, safe in its ignorance. At least I know my adaptive camouflage is functioning. Just in case, I check the readout again and confirm that it is, in fact, online. Gunfire suddenly echoes through the woods, and I whirl around to aim at a woodpecker, hammering tenaciously at another oak tree. I flex my titanium fingers and try to calm myself. All of my sensors are in overdrive, picking up every single sound, and I whirl around again and nearly fall from the tree. What I thought was the sound of creaking metal joints was just the branches of the neighboring tree shifting in the wind. What am I doing? I reset myself on my branch and close the lenses over my optics. I thought only humans could experience panic, but even now, with my vision gone, my code is sending alarm after alarm through my subsystems. I want to move, to leap out of this cursed tree and run, but I open my eyes and slowly scan the forest around me. The thick green leaves obscure everything. In the distance, while the trunks turn the forest floor into a striped mosaic of orange leaves and brown wood. He's watching. I look down directly beneath me at the patchwork of orange and tan that is the leaf-colored forest floor. My chassis is made of titanium, a wonderful but heavy metal. The sound of my feet crashing down on the leaves would be deafening in the quiet of the forest. I have to force myself not to react as I hear a faint clack behind me. It's just a squirrel. I know it's just a squirrel. I've heard it make that sound 4 times now. It clacks against the tree. Again and again. Suddenly the noise is different, and I turn my gun's muzzle on the rodent. It had finally managed to crack the thing open and was about to indulge in the soft insides when I rudely interrupted. It stands there like a statue now, only its little nose twitching. Beady black eyes staring down the spinning scores in the barrel. I can't handle this much longer. I'm like a cornered rat. I scan the forest again, but I still can't see him. I know he's there somewhere. The only reason he hasn't found me yet is this adaptive camouflage. But if I move too much too quickly, I check the system again. It's still working. The striped mosaic, brown wood against orange leaves, vertical lines evenly spaced like the bars of a cage. Suddenly, I hear the crunch of leaves and take aim. I see black fabric, his cloak. My pistol rings out through the forest, and I watch in horror as a simple crow explodes into a ball of blood and feathers. I move instantly, launching myself from the branch mere milliseconds after the shot. I only need 300 milliseconds, less than 1/3 of a second to be out of that spot. 200 too slow, I realize, as I am suddenly swatted from the air by depleted thunder. The roar of the anti-material rifle echoes through the trees as I crash through the splintering branches and crush my titanium bones on the stone-like dirt hiding beneath the orange carpet. Dead leaves puff into the air like the plunk of water, sending droplets sailing into the low whistle of the wind. I can see the sky through the green of the leaves. I've never noticed how beautiful it was before. The little white wisps of cloud dancing in the blue. I must be malfunctioning. The sky is blocked by a steel face and a single green eye sticking out from under a black hood. He lifts up the sights of a pistol to his eye. I can see the rifling, twisting down the barrel. I should be afraid. My survival code should be going into overdrive, but I'm not scared. Instead, I feel oddly relieved.
Hi, I'm Michelle. Mine's on page 38 in the book. It's titled, I'm Not Your Fetish Toy. My lips are not swollen, savory silicone. My behind is not injected with trucks full of cement, and my breasts are not contained with plastic found along the oceans. I'm not objected to cook dinner, every night padded lingerie, and 6-inch stilettos that are laced up to the bruised knees. I'm not objected to conceive crying children with a man who cheats on me continuously with his wedding ring on. Don't expect me to have my hair constantly curled like a python or my face beat every time you meet me either. Stop perceiving me like a prize. Stop determining my lifestyle like a doll. Stop telling me what and who I should be. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Raisa, and my poem is on page 11. Cosmos. Drink in the night from a crystal shot glass. Would you like that on the rocks by the sea, or with a silver slice of lunar eclipse? Sprinkle the stars around the outer ring and gaze into the intoxicating abyss.
Good evening, I'm Mona Weber, and I took the photograph on page 19. It's about the Norwegian fjords, and the only thing I really have to say about it is that I've had the ability and am lucky enough to do a lot of traveling. And at that time, it was a quick trip somewhere to just take a breath from life and to reflect on everything that was going on. Because as you know, life can be very challenging with everything we have within our lives and our own family lives. So that one particular photograph with its reflections of the mountains and of the clouds as well, I thought did a very good job in just simply making a statement that we just need to take time and stop and take a good look at nature and appreciate what we have out there. We have a lot of stressors, we have a lot of things going on between work and school and so on and so forth, driving on 301, that sometimes we just need to take a breath and just step back and enjoy the nature that's around us, even here on campus to all the way to Norway. And I thank you very much for appreciating my photograph. Thank you, please.
Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas. Is it too soon? It might be, I think it is. My photo is on page 16, and I've called it My Osprey. I don't know why I called it My Osprey, because they're not my osprey. I actually should have called it Randy, Sandy, and Mandy, because that's who they are. I don't know if that's what they call themselves, Randy, Sandy, and Mandy, but that's what I call them. I have no idea what they call them. Oh, I love this photo right here. Isn't that cool? Isn't that beautiful? But so I live in a little camper, and the only reason why I know anything about these osprey is because when I walk out to my car, there they are, 50 feet up on top of this little telephone pole that Smecco built this little thing. And last year, I would come there, and then the male was the only one there. This year, the male came, and I'm not sure if this is how it happened, but I think the male came about 2 weeks early, and then redid the same nest, and then I guess that's what they do. And 2 weeks later, the female came, and then something like about 2 months later, little Sandy came. There it is, right? Sandy's in the center, the little Annette, Jake, or Randy, Sandy, and Mandy. So I think Randy's on the left because the female are supposed to be bigger. And the reason why the one in the center is called Sandy, because I don't know if it's male or female. How would you know? I have no idea. I just watch them. So the first year, when they first got there, every time I would walk out to my car, they'd just scatter. They'd just go everywhere and anywhere except for where I was at. But I'd say hi, and I'd do some sort of fake bird sound or whatever. And eventually now they don't even, well, they're going now. They're probably down wherever they're at, South America or whatever. But they got to where they didn't even pay no attention to me. they could care less about me. And then that's how I was able to take that photo, is because I walked out and I saw them, and they're standing there just looking around. They glanced at me, just looking around. So I walked back in, got a real camera this time. I normally do the same thing like you said. I take my photos with this, the trusty little thing, or the point and shoot. But I was able to go in and get my camera and get a couple of good shots, and they stayed there. They posed for me. That was awful nice. One little thing, I know I'm probably taking too much of your time, but so I'm sitting, my kitchen table, TV's right there. That's where I eat, write, and watch TV. And this window is right there at Port Tobacco River, and I have a good view of all kinds of birds doing all kinds of things, fighting, playing, and I saw this Randy got a fish and was flying off with this little catfish, and an eagle came by, chased him, and they went backwards and forwards right there. I guess Randy didn't want the eagle to know where the nest was, which was like right over here. So this was going on, and then Randy finally dropped the fish. The eagle caught it in midair and just went off. That was cool. Now you talk about a Kodak moment. That would have been a Kodak moment. Thank you.
How y'all doing? My name is Nicholas Ritter. I wrote a poem on page 29 called "The Drag." I'm a lefty. I'm a lefty, left-handed. And anytime I go to any computer or kind of anything, I have to move everything over to the left side of me because it just doesn't function on the other half. And I just wrote this poem because I thought that was funny. Yeah. You always forget how aggressively left-handed you are until you have to drag the mouse and mouse pad over to the functional side of your body. I'm used to the red marks left from oppressive right-handed scissors, but man, the drag sucks the most. The drag feels self-aware that it is a drag. I wonder if the person at the computer after me looks at the position of the pad with a firm disgust. Why did some loser leave this here? While they drag it back to its right place. It's like our own little game of tug of war. My own pen-stained poem struggling to plant a flag of world domination. Thank you.
Mr. Wilkins, tardy professor, Episcopal priest, good to see everyone. The poem you'll find is on page 4041, Grandmother of the Bride. In the life of a professor as well as a priest, you get to know people sometimes at the major times of life change, and sometimes at times of life loss. And the events of this poem took place over a period of about 10 years, as you'll see. And it's a perspective on a bride who's married twice, and the perspective that the poem takes focuses on the grandmother who was there for both weddings, and of course for the things intervening which meant that the first one could not last beyond the grave. Grandmother of the Bride. 1. Nice grapefruit in December. Ossobuco trimmed and bound. La tua storia recalling the sounds of a kitchen and a minstrelling violin. 2. On the day your granddaughter wed, your eyes smiled to hers from gray chiffon and untouched gardenias at the end of a nave, a long white aisle by shining brass screens. 3. The groom, the priest, the altar awaited the one you cradled. Tears welled again when she cradled sons. 4. Afghanistan, Helmand, IED. A captain's grave, shots fired in memoriam, a flag folded. A young widow holds your arm. 5. On the day she wed again, your eyes smiled from gardenias and chiffon, held great-grandsons, fresh tears.
I'm Jim Brewster, and I've got the piece of work on page 31 called Palatka. Just a basic background on this. I'm with the Maryland Writers Association. We have an arrangement with the Mattawamma Creek Art Center where we go down and look at their art, pick a piece, and use it as the prompt for our story. I didn't expect it to get put in here, but the story is based upon a really fine photograph of a flat, calm lake looking across the far side where everything is mirrored perfectly in the water, and that was the basis for this. But before I get on to it, I wanted to thank CSM for having the Connections program. This is the best piece I've ever written, and it's only because this has been here. I've had the motivation to write, the motivation to learn more, because I have the opportunity to submit, and they pick my stuff every now and then, which makes me think I'm good enough to keep it going. So anyway, thank you very much for doing this. So Oatka stopped at the water's edge. He recognized the lake, and he knew he was just 2 paddles and 1 portage away from his village. The portage that brought him here had been an easy one. Less than a mile, reasonably flat. He liked portages. His canoe acting like a bonnet, the overturned hull concentrating and accentuating the sounds, and his view focused by the sides and the bow. He was a strong man, and the weight of the birch bark canoe on his shoulders did not bother him, even now. He stood at the water's edge with the canoe framing the scene. He could see sand and water and trees on the far side, but no sky. He swung his gaze left and then right, the canoe swinging with him. And each time he stopped his swing, the canoe tugged at him to continue. There was no wind. The lake's surface was flat and smooth and reflective. It reminded him of new ice at the beginning of winter before wind broke it and snow clouded it. His people waited for the news he brought from the south. He had paddled in portage to the Mohawk longhouses to negotiate their territory, and he'd been successful. The Mohawks set Roche Reggio at the end of the mountain, cutting the Sea of the Iroquois in half as their northern boundary. Natural boundaries, the Sea of the Iroquois to the east, Kenatawaranina, the big waterway to the north, the Adirondacks to the west, protected their longhouses. Only the south invited invasion, and now a treaty stopped that. He shrugged, and the canoe rolled off his shoulders to the right. Oatka stops its descent with his hip and held it with both hands at waist height. He controlled the collapse of his knees, easing the canoe to the ground. The crunch of canoe disturbing gravel let him know it was safely down. He walked to the water's edge, knelt down, and scooped a handful to drink. Ripples moved outward in a semicircle, but were no match for the calm of the lake and soon died out. He stood, released from the blinders of the canoe, and took in the entire tableau. The beauty stunned him, like it did every time he stood before a calm lake. Birch and pine intermingled on the far shore, the pine dwarfing the birch. The birch fought back, their white trunks dividing the green into vertical sections through which deer would walk. Smoke-puffed clouds, same size, evenly spaced, in rows, came toward him as if walking on parallel trails. The bank on the far side was a precise, horizontal line separating the view top from bottom. The trees and the cloud had twins in the water. If there had been a light breeze, the twins would have been fraternal, but these were identical. The reflections in the water seemed to dive down as deep as the sky was high. He knew he could not fly, but sometimes he wanted to dive down and see if he could go deep. It was also quiet, but not a quiet of nature cowed and scared at his approach, but a quiet of peacefulness. His soul soared. Oatka took in and exhaled a deep breath to calm himself. He took another breath, opened his mouth, and sang. He sang love to the spirit, slowly, quietly, respectfully, for making such beauty. He sang love to the spirit for giving him eyes and a mind to enjoy it. He raised his hands to the sky like a son seeking a hug from his mother. He raised his pitch, increased his volume, and sped up the tempo. He moved toe heel, and sang gratitude to the spirit for his safe trip to the new border. He sang gratitude to the spirit for his people were safe. And then he danced, turning right, because the wolf moved right. He bounced on the balls of his feet and sang as loud as he could. He sang thanks because it was a great time to be alive. He sang thanks for his family, for fish in the sea and deer in the forest. He sang thanks for the longhouse and the canoe that didn't leak. He sang thanks for the crop and papoose that would arrive next year. Oatka's song carried across the lake, echoed off the hillside, and returned to him. Hearing his echo, he stopped dancing and listened. He shouted, and the echo shouted back. He shouted again, and it returned. Worship was over, and now he was having fun. It was good to be alive. Oakta picked up his canoe and placed it in the water. He apologized to the spirit for disturbing the scene, stepped in, pushed off, and paddled on. He still had 2 paddles and 1 portage before he could deliver the good news.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Diane. My photo is on page 52, Heart's Illusion. I wanted to thank my friends, family, and colleagues who helped me choose that photo out of the 13 that I asked to help me choose to narrow down to the 5. I had a total of 13 photos. Everyone had chosen that photo. And the way I captured it, I was walking along and I saw this huge trailer, type of trailer that's used for when you're having your roof done with shingles. And I was walking along, and the way that the sun was shining in my direction, I walked along and I was like, is that what I think it is? So I stepped back, and the hooks on the side of the trailer formed a heart. So I have that heart's illusion, that perspective, and it's just a wonderful combination of beauty and industrial work. So I wanted to thank everybody for coming tonight. I wanted to thank Neil, and that's Heart's Illusion.
Good evening. I'm Kate Lassman, and my poem is on page 7. And this was inspired by a trip to the canyonlands of Colorado and Utah some years back. This is called Desert Dawning. The desert is never in a hurry, especially at night. Time floats like a yucca moth on the wind. The great rock forms grow cold, and the Milky Way watches, silent, over everything. The desert moon cannot be rushed. Dawn comes as it comes. In fact, the light transforms from soft and cool and silver blue to reddened molten gold so deftly that the finished change will startle. On a pensive desert night, a lot of movement goes unseen, a scurry in the brush, a chirp that echoes off the canyon wall. If you cannot see or have or know beyond a campfire's meager range, it does not mean you never can or will. Thank you.
So I'm Kim Donnelly, and I don't write a lot of poetry, but I've been going through some things with my in-laws as they age, and I needed to try and work that out, so the poems on pages 8 and 9 are my attempt to do that. The golden years, father-in-law. He looks out the window again and again. I thought they'd be here by now, he tells Grandma. The minivan pulls up. Hugs all around. The grandson goes to the bathroom. The son goes to check the garden. The daughter-in-law starts unloading the van. Her backpack and purse are on the couch. A laptop is dropped on the kitchen table. The phone rings. The son's friends know he is in town. Ribbons of anxiety unfurl. Where's the grandson? What's he doing? The garden is fine. You can't put that in the trash. Who called? Who went in the basement? Why? What? You can't. Ribbons become banners, and banners become gags. And 90 minutes later, we have to get going, the daughter-in-law says. You're not leaving already, he says. We can't be late for whatever, she says. The golden years, daughter-in-law. 268 miles later, I am brimming over with stories to tell. Things your grandson has done. Funny little moments, life lived. Moments later, you are glad to see us, but your anxiety expands to fill the space. My words bring you stress. My presence in your house upsets the delicate balance. I don't know the rules you live by. I intrude unintentionally, really with the best of intentions, but 90 minutes later, we have to get going, I say. You're not leaving already, you say. We can't be late for whatever the thing is this time, I say. And back in the car, I try to unravel my sadness and guilt and figure out what to do differently next time.